So from an end user perspective or a company's perspective, if they're trying to get in onto the SASE model, do they have to wait for maybe their Zscaler contract to come up or their MPLS? Like, do they have to wait for all these different contracts to expire?
It's a really good question. Just like every other cloud delivered subscription, there are multiple tiers. So you start with things like SD-WAN, some of the basics, and then you add additional security capabilities downstream. Because our platform is natively identity driven, we're able to include things like secure web gateway and next-gen firewall, and even our base subscription. And that identity awareness does some interesting things to help this layer in and augment situation. A lot of customers, they're on multiple contracts that expire at different times for all these different elements. So we're able to, the platform in general for SASE needs to be flexible enough to be able to ingest an MPLS connection until that contract is done and be able to harness it as a part of the ultimate solution. If the customer has Palo Alto, we need to be able to work with it until those contracts expire. In some cases, that's not entirely true. Like if they just bought Silver Peak devices for SD-WAN 4 months ago, there's not a whole lot that we can do with that because our solution is natively an SD-WAN and network optimization solution. But it's designed to work hand in hand with existing security solutions until those contracts run out, and either we continue to work together or we can displace them ultimately. What we find with a lot of large enterprises, though, is that even though they're sort of all set with a lot of their networking and security components in this part of the world, in some parts of the world, that's a problem, like India, China, or if they make an acquisition, they may or may not want to extend their MPLS into those environments, their Palo Alto architecture into those environments. So a hybrid approach where they continue doing what they're doing in one part of the world and then have CATO pick up a cloud-delivered solution for this new realm, the new acquisition, or a specific use case. We've done a lot of those types of deployments because CATO is global. We actually have a very large, over 50 node network around the world to cover some hard to reach places and again provide networking and security optimization in China, in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in Brazil, in Colombia, in Europe. We have a POP in Morocco, Peru, and a lot of those new nodes that we've rolled out over the years have been customer driven because a client that we were working with needed something specific in that area. And because CATO owns its own architecture, we're able to do a build out for a single customer if the use case proves it out. The other big use case we're starting to see where CATO can be woven in to help with this evolution and adoption for SASE over time is mobility. So we see a lot of VPN replacement projects. The old legacy VPN was sort of an on-off. If you had credentials, you were authenticated in, and now you have access to the entire corporate network. As we've seen from some of the more high-profile data breaches, that's a horrible idea. You have to best practices to do microsegmentation within the network, so that if an entity or a work group is given authentication into the corporate network via VPN, they're able to, the IT is able to truncate where they can go once they're on the corporate network. So an IoT device is mapped to other IoT devices, and that's the extent of where they can go once they're on the network. These users are a third-party contractor, and they're allowed to go here, but not everywhere. So that is part of a zero-trust network access architecture and part of a new VPN replacement strategy called SDP, or software-defined perimeter. And it's the idea that we're able to address those mobile and remote and, in some cases, temporary VPN users differently than in the old manner. In the old legacy VPN as well, it was typically tying those remote workers using public internet at McDonald's or whatever, public Wi-Fi, to a physical appliance somewhere. So a user in Singapore would be hairpinned all the way back to a VPN concentrator in Dallas, for example, creating an experience that connects them, but not optimally. So with an architecture like SASE and what CATO delivers, we would connect that user in Singapore to a POP in Singapore, encrypt the tunnel, and then ingest all that traffic into our backbone, and they're able to ride Hyperloop style from far end to far end to get to AWS or whatever.
POP to POP, basically.
That's exactly right.
To the nearest POP to the end user, right?
That's exactly right.
Gotcha.
That's exactly right. So we actually did a big project a few months ago with a little over 50,000 remote workers that need to be connected. The company was using a like a mobile iron, like a device management tool for corporate-owned laptops and smartphones and tablets. And we were able to embed the CATO software-defined perimeter license in that architecture. So as soon as that user went to the internet, it pierced through the CATO cloud first, so that security policies could be adhered, so that user's access could be restricted. So there's a network access control aspect that's part of this. And then all of those sessions could be watched with a zero trust network access mindset all the time. The idea is that some users, they have this, again, truncated experience while they're on the network, because we only want them to go to certain places and not have access to everything. But there's some users that should be, Steven Spielberg's on the network, he can get anywhere he wants. But as soon as that authenticated identity goes to a finance server 57 times in 10 minutes, the platform thinks that's weird. It might not be Steven Spielberg. So that's where zero trust network access comes into play, where you're able to create this curated experience of who can go where in terms of application architecture to user mapping, but you still watch over those sessions all the time to make sure that there's no odd reconnaissance going on or misbehavior. You're able to drill down and look at that session and not only optimize it, but also shut it down if you need to. But where CATO and the SASE architecture really shine is for large enterprises, frankly, that have sites that are globally distributed, and those optimizing those traffic sessions between Asia Pac, Europe, Latin America, and securing all those sessions at the same time, where the need for a converged architecture is valid and improves agility and transparency for compliance and analytics and things